Good evening. It is 6:20 on June 23rd, and this is an ad hoc committee to look at the certification of funds from the Ferrioli funds for the purpose of hiring a consultant for the library. My name is Phil Kern. I'm the chairman of the committee. Also present is Robert Arcani from the City Council. Tom Sadi is also on the committee, but Tom cannot be here because he is on active duty at West Point this evening. Also, Mark Hascarl, the director of the library, is here. Ned Moore is here to represent the library board. And Virginia Lesko Warner is here to represent personnel for the city of Danbury. And other members are here, members of the public. Okay, you know what I'm going to do, Mark? I'm going to throw this to you first. You can explain, you or Ned, if you want to explain what you're trying to do here, and what you want to do. And
why don't I start, since this is my idea, and I'll be brief. Michelle Capizzello, the assistant director of the library, is here.
Good, all right.
And Margaret, who is our executive secretary in the director's office, is here.
Okay.
And Gary Falkenthorpe from the library board. Okay, this is my idea. So I'll say a few words about it, if I may, and then Mark, you can pick me up and, with further detail. We did put into print, Phil, a document, and it outlined, this appeared in the library board minutes. And basically what it says is, since our staff has been reduced over the last few years, and we're asking people to do more and more to keep the services up in the library and to offer the greatest assistance to the public, our patrons, it is getting difficult for us to keep all of this together. And we feel that from various discussions we've had at the library board, it's time for us to take a look at the administrative supervisory responsibilities. That would be Mark, Michelle, and also everybody who has some kind of a department head function, and see how their responsibilities are lined up, and see if we can do more efficient job. So we're looking for an outside set of eyes to come in and look at what we're trying to do, how we're trying to do it, and see if we can get advice from that service. And so we went out and we looked at various consultants, and we chose one that we thought had a lot of experience in this area. And it's the Singer Group. They've worked on problems like this. They have a lot of experience with it. So we thought it would be worth an expenditure, which we'll take out of the Ferrioli fund, which is supplementary fund. It's not supposed to be doing the basic library job, but it's funding that's above and beyond, that we can use for kind of outside projects. And that's basically where we are. Now, we heard from the library staff that they were concerned that maybe we were going to do something with some people's jobs. And I said, uh-oh, I don't want them to feel like that. So I asked Mark to designate a time for me to go down there. And I sat in the library. We announced to them that I'd be available. And I sat there for a 3-hour period for anybody to come in and talk to me with any questions or was nervous about any of this. Because I simply wanted to reassure them that we're not out to diminish or eliminate anybody's job. We're out, what we're trying to do and see how we're organized in all of our supervisory, administrative functions to see how we can be best organized. So we're asking somebody to come in from the outside, look at our organization, see if we can strengthen it like that. Okay? So, Mark, do you have any pithy comments that could add on to that?
Well, I do know that there was concern expressed here at City Hall that the report that we would eventually get from the Singer Group would recommend the hiring of more positions or the filling of some of our vacant positions. And I made it clear to Paula Singer, who's the president of this organization, of this company, that what we were not looking to do that at all, because we knew that that would not be a possibility. It's not within the realm of the economic situation of the city right now. And we understand that completely. So I told her right from the start, even before she, sent her proposal, that any recommendations could not include hiring any people or filling any of those vacant positions. That was made clear right from the start.
I have a couple of questions. First of all, is everybody in that library in the union? Or are there, how many are, or how many aren't? Let's put it that way, how many aren't?
Well, the part-time employees are not, and Margaret, Michelle, and I are not. But all the full-time and one part-timer are members of DMEA.
All right, then this is going to sound as a terrible comment coming from me, especially being the chairman, but...
Try it.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because I did come out of the fire department.
All right.
And I do know that if I ever, and I didn't end up at the chief at the end, but I just know that if I had ever gone to the mayor and said that I wanted to hire a consultant to come in and tell me how I could run my fire department more efficiently, I'd be looking for a job the next day. And the reason being is that's why they hired me in the first place. Because I'm supposed to know how to run things efficiently. And if not, isn't there a network somewhere in the in libraries that, like, in other words, if I had a problem in the fire department and I maybe had never dealt with that problem, I had enough friends throughout the state of Connecticut that I could call up and say, hey, Bob, do you ever run into this problem in your department? How can I deal with this problem? I just can't, I'm just having a tough time getting it into my mind that we gotta hire consultants to come in to tell us how to run the library.
How long have you been doing this?
Me?
Yeah.
In November, I will have been a director for 35 years.
For Danbury.
No.
How long have you been Danbury?
It'll be 5 years in September.
I mean, what do you think about this? I mean, just what this gentleman said, it sounds like, I mean, it sounds to me like you're not doing your job. I'm saying that's what it sounds like to me.
Right.
If you take it from my, I mean, what do you think about this?
Well, when Ned brought up this idea, both Michelle and I thought that it was a good idea because we had, our first vacancy happened 3 years ago this month when we lost our AV coordinator. And starting with that position, we split up the responsibilities among several other people. Both Michelle and I took parts of that position. And then as we continued to lose other positions that we weren't able to fill, other people stepped in and took as much of those responsibilities as possible. But we got to the point where Michelle was trying to be the assistant director and the head of the junior department, for example. We haven't had a head of the children's library for over 2 years, about 2.5 years at this point. And these responsibilities were added on to people who already had a full plate of their own responsibilities. Sometimes we've been able to handle them, and other times it's been really hard to do that. So we thought that somebody who had professional experience in this kind of project, and I looked at a list of library consultants specifically who have done this kind of staff study, we thought that some outside input would be helpful to us at this point.
So you're saying that everybody's working, everybody's accomplishing something every moment that they're there?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
We
So
have,
then what could if I have a full plate, what could some consultant company possibly, you must have some idea what a consultant company can do, they must have presented themselves in some way. Then what could they possibly accomplish? Give me one goal, one area where they think they can, obviously I'm gonna be giving you more. I mean, without the ability to hire more people,
Right.
what could they possibly do if you've got a full plate and you're working all day long? What could they possibly do?
Well, we're kind of backpedaling. For example, at the end of the month, we're losing the person who's currently selecting the adult materials. We're also losing a full-time clerk. Now, that takes 35 hours of service away from us, so whereas we're mixing and matching all of it, try to keep all of the services within the library going. Now, we understand that, and we're not looking to the consultant to come in and say, you need to hire more people. At the same time, though, Phil, this is basically the way I look at it. At the same time, we don't want to take any services away from the public.
Yeah.
We want to keep the doors open. We want all the programs running. As Michelle was just talking to me, we have a summer program to try to encourage kids to read throughout the summer and all that kind of thing. We want that going. And we're constantly asking our people to do more with less, right? We had a pretty broad span of offerings, and we want to keep as many of them going as we possibly can. We know that these are very tough financial times. We understand that. It's true in Danbury, it's true in the state, it's true in the country. We're not ready to run down to the street and demand that we get more people. We know it's totally unreasonable. So keep all the services up, but constantly backpedal with the staffing that we have. And we deliberate at the library board, we listen to the comments from Mark and Michelle and so forth. Margaret gives us ideas also because she's right in the middle of the whole thing. So we thought, I don't know, but we understand, we've discussed this, we are taking a chance with this. We understand we're taking a chance. Sooner or later, the person is going to give us a list of recommendations. They're going to go in and be looked at Mark and his management team and then come to the board. And we got to pick and choose what recommendations we can use.
Okay,
So it's vague to answer you. It is vague. We don't know what's going to come down from that.
So you said you vetted out other companies that do this kind of thing, and you selected this company, right?
Yeah. We had a representative from the board work with Mark and Michelle to do that. Yes.
Okay.
We got proposals.
So what other libraries have they had success with? Can you give me some kind of idea?
Yeah, quite a few.
Okay.
They have a pretty broad range of
I brought
experience.
copies of the proposal if you'd like to see it.
Oh, I'd very much like to see that. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. And before I answer that question, because I'm not sure if I copied the pages of the other libraries we've done similar work for, I did want to quote from one paragraph in her proposal. She had talked about how many departments in the library are without a manager right now. And she said, realizing this whole, this is likely to be taking on library staff as well as on customer service. The Board of Trustees and Library Director are taking a proactive approach to minimize its impact. To that end, the library is seeking a proposal to review how the time and effort of staff members are allotted to determine if administrative and supervisory responsibilities should be realigned. That's on page 2 of her report. And, oh, sure. And based on the list of clients for which the senior group had done similar projects, Michelle and I split the list and called. Everybody was very positive, and in fact, without exception, each of the libraries had used the senior group again because they were so pleased with the results that they got.
Well, I guess I just wonder, you folks are living it. You know, your folks are living this thing.
Correct.
I'd like to know, what possible
Outcome.
outcome,
Positive
what
outcome.
possible solution that they could present. Do you have any kind of idea what kind of solution they could present?
Mhm.
Please tell me.
I say,
Like I say, you folks are living it.
I'm on the board, I'm not a librarian,
Uh-huh.
but I spent 39 years in the school system, about 28 as a reading coordinator. I had a lot of programs and all this kind of stuff. And I went out as a consultant myself to various school districts, and we had consultants in. And what you're basically doing is looking for a fresh look at it. Now, she may come in and say to us, this whole department head structure that you got going on here doesn't fly anymore. She may say that. That's one, you asked me to make a guess at what she might say. And I think that's one thing that she might say. I don't know. She might say that you're organized for the old days, when you had a lot of people to work in these various departments. Now, the people have gone away, and you're still working under that structure. Maybe you ought to rethink that whole thing. That's one thing she might say to us. And we're going to say to her, why? What's that going to give us? And she better come up with some reasons. That's a guess. You asked me if I could guess.
Yeah,
That's my
yeah.
thing. All right?
Well, I gotta tell
Or
you.
she might say another thing. She might say that you're painting with too big a canvas here. You're painting with too big a canvas. You better go back and you better put some priorities on this. And maybe some departments are going to have to close down for a period of time. We've done that with the foreign language effort, have we not? Cut back on
No, it
this
was the technology.
technology services that we
Yeah,
cut
we
back
cut
on.
hours.
We don't want to do that. You don't want to go to Kohl's and walk into the store and they say, welcome to Kohl's, and you say, I want to find out where the men's wear. They say, oh, that's closed right now. It will be open at 7 o'clock. We don't want to start doing that kind of thing.
Now, I own a concrete delivery and pumping business. And I actually receive numerous, and that's kind of obscure, type of numerous like magazines for free and all this kind of stuff. So I read things, and some of the ideas are pretty good, and some of the ideas are not so good.
Okay.
I mean, are there publications involved here that maybe you can get this stuff for free or for very little, a very small charge, that you can read through this stuff and kind of get some ideas on these things? I mean, an obscure business such as mine, I mean, I got some ideas. I said, these are pretty good. We'll implement some of these things. And it's a very small company, and I understand it's a big difference. I'm talking apples and oranges here, but are there, I guess my question is, are there publications where you can read either free or minimal charge that you can kind of pick up some of these ideas? I mean, there must be something, right?
There's tons of material.
Yeah.
But
You guys are in the reading business.
You gotta say it. But it's gotta be personalized. They gotta get inside the library. They gotta talk to the people. A lot of the people are frustrated. They feel put upon, and yet they want to serve the public. That's very much like the teachers.
Okay.
They go the extra step every time to keep it all
And
together.
just as my complete history, I did 23 years as a cop in Danbury. I retired a few years ago. Okay, I'm going to ask a pretty blunt question here, and I hope I get a good, honest answer. How's the morale, and do the people think that there's problems at the top, or in the middle, or at the bottom, or throughout, or what? Now, please tell me honestly what I say I don't know, so I'm only asking.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Well,
I got to have our people inside.
Well, you guys are living it. You must know, right? If people are just upset with what's going on and are saying that Mark's not doing a good job, or this person's not doing a good job, or you're not doing a good job, you must have some idea, right? I mean, I knew when I was in the police department that where we had problems with certain people. Are there those issues, or does everybody seem to be getting along? How's the morale?
I'd say that the morale is low for many people, and some people do point the finger at me, but there are other factors as well.
I would guess, is what Marcus,
I'm way out of-
No, I want to take this to another angle.
but you asked, you said, I want an honest answer.
Well, I appreciate that, yes.
All right, supposing you go you do this, they come back with maybe 5 major recommendations and 30 minor recommendations. Now we get down to, in order to do the recommendations, it's gonna mean people doing other jobs. Now we get into Ginny's realm. Now do we start getting grievances filed, or people, that's not my job classification, or what we ran into when we couldn't move the books because they couldn't go outside in the weather? I mean, they made such a big deal out of that book drop, I could have killed myself with the phone calls I was getting. And the other thing I'm afraid of here is that, and somebody made the statement earlier, is that all of a sudden they come back with these glowing things that could be done to the library. And I can see this getting turned right around on the mayor, because look at this. This is what the consultant says, we can have this kind of a library, but it's all because of you, the mayor, and you, the common council. You won't enact what we paid $10,000 to have done.
So we are now,
But anyway, I want to get to Ginny. Ginny, where does this put us with the labor?
There could be some real labor issues and wages, hours of work, working conditions, those are all subject to bargaining. So depending on what they come back with, if they try to realign things, that people are doing work outside of the scope of what they're normally doing, it could be pay implications for them. I saw on the list they or on this summary that they talked about number of employees and hours of service. Those are union issues. They talk about responsibilities for recruitment and evaluation. Tremendous union issue for evaluation. Recruitment is driven by, you have civil service rules governing that. So there's several other entities that you can run into as a problem in terms of implementing their, and I would hate to see that you go through and spend $10,000 and then you can't implement it because you can't agree with the unions on it. Again, depending on what those recommendations may be.
and I think we know that problem is that if we were going to bring in somebody to take a look at the supervisory and administrative structure, what we said is, while you're doing it, you've got to take a look at these things. We've got to be aware of these things. If you're going to go down and talk to a department head or a staff member, you've got to take those things into account, because it's all part of reorganizing the administration and management. So.
Ben, you got any questions? You have Ben.
Yes.
When, after the end of, what's the biggest problem that you see that the library faces today? Is it an employee issue, not enough staff? Is that what you feel is the biggest issue that you're facing today?
Yes.
And then have those issues been communicated, to the mayor? Is he aware of those issues? Or is Jenny aware of those issues?
Yeah, well, I've talked to them both about it over the past few years. So yes, they're aware.
And you could say because of the hiring freeze, but the hiring freeze can be lifted if the need is greater than what we see here. Can that solve a lot of your morale issues that you see? Because I don't want to be spending $7,500 and it's still going to come back. It's not going to solve the problem.
Well, just to give you one example, the head of our junior department retired December of 2009. Yeah.
Okay.
And you started January of 9. The end of 2008, she retired. I came over to talk to the mayor right away. He said, put it in writing and mention the fact that because you already had 2 full-time vacancies that we weren't filling, you've already been, saving the city some money in that year's operating budget. We were able to proceed. We advertised for that position. The civil service people had narrowed it down to 3 finalists who had been scheduled for second interviews, and then the process was stopped. We're at the point now where, because we understand the realities of the city's financial situation, that we don't even ask when we know that somebody is leaving. We're losing 2 more full-time people as of June 30th. We haven't said a word to City Hall about, can we please have either one of those people replaced, because we know that we shouldn't, and that the city probably can't afford that.
That's still not a reason to communicate that to them. I mean, if say, for example, if that person never retired, she should probably still be employed, correct?
Yes. But the fact is that those 2 positions, which were in the next year's budget because they retired after the budget had been approved, can't be filled now. And as Michelle mentioned, one of them is the head of one of them selects all the adult books that are added to the collection.
But is that considered an essential position?
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the as I said, when the AV person left, we did as much as we could to fill that person's position. We are currently working on a system to take over the responsibilities of that adult collection development librarian. The board has agreed to pay her to choose the materials remotely for 6 months, and during that time, Michelle and I and other department heads in the library are going to be working on a plan so that as of December 31st, we will have replaced all of her responsibilities with another system.
But so it sounds to me you already know some of these issues already. It sounds like you're already addressing the issues that you're outlining here. You already know what they are. So to go out and hire a consultant to tell you exactly what it looks like, you already know.
Well, but in those 2 examples that I gave you, the AV coordinator and the adult collection development librarian, we came up with systems that work pretty well. But there are other things that we haven't been able to fill on our own. The head of the children's library, for example, Michelle took over that when she was hired, because at that point we were still thinking that we'd be able to fill that position, because in Michelle's previous job she'd been a teen librarian. So she said, well, I will help to supervise that department. But then the position, that process was stopped. We weren't able to hire anybody. And and I shouldn't be putting words in Michelle's mouth, but she couldn't be the head of the junior department and the assistant director and do either job successfully. So during the interim, I was meeting with the junior staff after Michelle conveyed to the board that she really didn't think she could do both of those things anymore. I started meeting with the junior department staff on a regular basis, but they still take a lot of their issues to Michelle, not only to me. So now we're going to go to those, we're going to have the department meetings together. We're doing what we can, but the absence of a head of the junior department is probably the biggest void that we have right now.
But again, so this consultant is really not going to solve your issues. They're just going to tell you what your problems are. You already know your greatest problems.
We know the problems. We're hoping that she and her partner, who just have a library degree, will bring some new perspective to our situation.
But it sounds to me you get a better bang with your buck by sitting down with Jenny and the mayor to see if you can iron out some of those differences first before you even attempt to go the consulting route. By hiring 2 more employees can solve almost half your issues that you expressed this evening. Right? Wouldn't that solve a lot of your morale issues, your work overload that you as a director, you can better oversee the library because you're not spending your time doing the day-to-day stuff. Like in accounting, I mean, if I'm the director or financial director, if I'm sitting doing bank recs and journal entries every day, I'm not doing my job as a finance director, overseeing everybody else, because I'm doing the day-to-day stuff. So by freeing up your time more will allow you to do a lot of these duties that you're hiring someone else to do. I think to my opinion, I think your first step is really to sit down with Jenny and the mayor to see if you can overcome some of those key issues that you you expressed this evening. I mean, if that junior person is such an essential position, I don't think they'll have a blind ear to it if it's that important to the operations of the library. At least I don't think the city council would turn a blind ear to it, but it has to be essential to the operations, not just to fill it because it's there. And it sounds like, to me, it looks like you absolutely need that position. So I think that should be your first steps before hiring your consultant, because I don't think this is going to solve your issue. I think you'd be wasting your money, my opinion.
Maybe either one of you, is there any state resources that are available, like for consultants, for libraries?
Mark, we talked about that.
Yeah, there,
I don't know.
Just not the speakers, just try to work. Private speakers.
the state library has some consultants, but not in that field. For example, they have somebody who deals with anyone who is considering a renovation or an expansion or a new building. There was a library space planning consultant at the state library. But they don't have any personnel consultants in Hartford at the state library. And to answer, if I can go back a bit, you had asked both of us, and that answered about whether there are professional journals and other means of communicating among people in our profession, and there certainly are. But they don't deal with issues quite as broad as this. But Michelle and I both subscribe to a listserv, and we frequently send out questions. But they don't have a scope this broad and this complicated. It's more about a music download service, for example, how have other libraries dealt with that, or questions about procedures. Nothing as broad as how can we look at the staff structure.
Well, these folks, the Singer Group, gave you a pretty good outline. I mean, have you, with your staff and board, have you folks together, have you gone down this list and try to work out some of these things that consultants propose to review? I mean, obviously, number of employees, we all know about that. I mean, have you folks sat down together? I mean, I'm not really sure how your organization works. So do you folks meet together, the board and the employees?
The library board meets once a month, and the department heads meet every other week.
I mean, do you folks all get together at the same time at all?
No, the board
doesn't meet with that.
The board doesn't meet with the staff, no. The board meets and Mark is always there, Margaret is there, Michelle is often. But we do not meet with the managers in the library, with the staff, no. What
does the board do?
The board is a policy-making board. We look at the budgets, we approve the expenditures, we try to make sure that there's policies, appropriate policies for all the various instances that come up. We approve initiatives that Mark and Michelle will come up with for new ideas and new programs. We do not get into supervising the library staff. We don't get into any management issues. If anybody approaches me from the staff, I simply tell that person, we're not the management of the library, we're the policy making board. You take it to the management team and you take it to Mark and Michelle.
Well, I'm very familiar with chain of command and Taylor's organization,
Sure.
but it sounds like you folks are in a crisis here. I mean, you don't think you get any benefit of having everybody just meet together? Everybody meet together, we talk about some of these issues and all. Maybe, just maybe, brainstorm between everyone and get some ideas on how to fix this thing free of charge?
Well, as I said, when I heard that people were concerned that we were going to have a negative effect on their job.
Yeah.
People would be losing their job. Mark carved out a time, and I went down there, and I sat there for 3 hours, so anybody could come.
No, but I mean, the board and the employees, if you guys are in crisis here. It sounds to me like you guys are in crisis and you're looking to spend $9,800 on an unknown.
Well, this was the route we decided to take.
I know,
This
but you
was-
never considered like having everybody just get together and just talk about what's what?
Now, we've got a unanimous vote from the board that they thought it was a good idea to have somebody come in and take it out of administrative structure and see if we could get some suggestions. That's the route we took.
Okay.
Bob, to answer your question about whether we're doing any of the things that they propose to do, the third item is a good example of the long-range plan. We started working on a long-range plan near the end of the first year that I was here, and that was in place for 2 or 3 years. We started working on one at the end of 2009 and the beginning of 2010, and we realized that the conditions had changed. We were basically just, saying, oh, we accomplished this goal, let's create a new goal. We realized that we weren't taking into account enough the realities of the staffing situation and of our budget. So we threw that out and we started over. The managers had asked me to come up with what I saw as the 4 or 5 most important goals for the library, and we were working on that when we had realized that we should also halt that and get input from the public, not just the people who use the library, but people who don't use the library. And to that end, we have created a survey which is online and which has been mailed to randomly selected people from the voters list. We've been publicizing that on our website and in the paper and on Danbury Patch. So we're currently in the process of gathering input from the community so that we can use that information as we then start up again on creating a new long-range plan, which has to take into account the realities of our situation right now. The one that we were working on before said, let's do technology training for the staff with what's called Library 2.0, which just takes advantage of the changes that have taken place on the internet. And at first we were writing, we have to wait till we have a new automation coordinator. And we were getting a whole list of those things, so we realized that didn't make any sense anymore. So, we either modified those things or eliminated them because we're trying to create a plan that will deal with our current situation and keep us moving forward as much as possible. So that's in process right now.
We have an idea that we may get some input out of this. We're hoping and thinking that we're going to go into the first floor of the bank building next door to us, currently owned by the Union Savings Bank. And we're hoping that that would set us up and make that more positive for us also. And we've talked to Paula Singer about that we're anticipating getting additional space. So here we have the problems with the space that we have. We want to get that additional space. And we're saying to her, the suggestions that you give us, keep in mind that we're going to be moving into a larger space, which we're looking at as a very positive thing for us. This is going to help us a lot.
Okay. Do you think, since you're living this, with the staff you have and the hours it takes to complete the duties, you have enough staff to possibly do all these things? To take care of all the tasks that need to be done?
Well, to answer you, I think the people are going above and beyond to get the job done right now.
Okay. So,
And we're fearful that we're going to continue to lose people off of our staff.
I look at something like the Public Works Department, and I know this is apples and oranges, it's not the same. But 30 years ago, there were 100 men in that. today there's 30 some odd.
Okay.
And they, getting things done somehow, and I don't know how. I don't know if they hired a consultant group. So, doing more with less. But if you're
But
saying.
they're probably doing, I'm
So it's
thinking
more
now,
mechanized, I mean, it's more
they're
mechanized.
probably
Mechanized.
taking care of the emergencies and that kind of thing.
They do an awful lot of, well, whatever. Maybe I shouldn't even brought that up. Maybe that was a mistake.
Well, that's the problem.
But since you folks know your business, and I'm hoping that you do, sure you do, because it's a great library. If you got, it takes a certain amount of hours to take care of certain tasks. You have this many people that work this many hours. If you don't have enough hours to take care of all those tasks, no consultant group in the world is going to be able to fix that without putting more people on. So if you're telling me that your problem is you don't have enough man hours to take care of the tasks that need to be done, then why would we even consider something like this? I mean,
Because
this is from an outsider saying this.
We're
now. I don't mean
reluctant, I
With
think,
all due respect to everybody here,
we're reluctant to say just that, what you said.
Okay, so then we're gonna come to then we're gonna get an influx of people coming into the city hall, whether it's for the city council or the mayor's office or picketing or whatever they're gonna do, and they're gonna scream that the library needs to have another 120 hours worth of man hours a week, that we have to hire 5 more people, and the city government's not allowing it, and then we got the other half of the people saying we can't raise taxes anymore because people are losing their houses here.
Yeah.
So, this is why I asked you before, what possible suggestion could they make to fix this problem?
We're gonna find
I
out.
don't know. Well, we may not find out, unless you want to pay for it. I don't know.
Well, we said in the beginning, this is a risk-taking operation. When you ask somebody to come in and look at your professional jobs and how you're doing them and to give you suggestions, we know we're taking a risk. We know that. Could we throw the $10,000 away? I hope we're not throwing it away. But we're hoping that we're going to get benefit out of it for the immediate and for the future.
Gary?
Can I guarantee you that it's going to solve all of our problems?
No, I understand that.
No. We thought, the whole board thought that it's worth going down this road.
May I have permission to speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
As a non-member of the thing. Yeah, I hear where you're coming from, Bob, and you a number of times have said to Ned, you're there, you're the guy, and then you ask what the board does, and, well, I don't know a whole lot about running a library, very honestly, and I'm not in there, and I think, so Chief over to Stop and Shop parking lot one morning, and I said, I spent my life, working in the electronic power supply industry, and if you were to put me on the board of directors of an electronic power supply company, I could be in there in 3 days and tell you whether the operation's being run correctly or not. I don't have a clue, with the library if it's being run correctly or not. So, these 3 people here are the professional librarians. Ned's been around the library a lot longer than I have, but he's still not a professional librarian. So for him or me, let me get into the objective case here.
Go objective.
For him or me to meet with the library staff and try to decide whether to do a good job, I don't see that being productive. So when this idea was raised, I sat there and said, okay, I admit, I'm ignorant to a large extent in how a library should operate. The 3 professionals are telling me that, okay, we're doing the best we can. For all of our years' experience, we think we're running this as efficiently as possible. And still, it's not getting done. So at that point in time, and again, I was involved with consultants in industry, and their use to me is they don't, at least in theory, they don't have an agenda. So when I was in in power supply company, if I looked at something, I looked at it from the marketing perspective. You know, where the accounting guy was looking at it from the accounting, objective or perspective when you're trying to clear up a problem. So you bring in a consultant who doesn't have an agenda and supposedly can come up with the best solution. So, cutting to the chase, what I'm hoping is that the consultant, maybe because it's an extra pair of eyes looking in from the outside with no particular agenda, no little group to protect or to beat up, can maybe see some efficiencies that these three people aren't seeing because maybe they're too close to it and they're involved with people. And that's really why I thought it was a good idea. We can get somebody in from the outside to look at the operation and improve efficiencies with the people that you have. Maybe this person does this, that person does that.
But then we go back to the union issues.
Yeah, well, that is something that I didn't,
Man-hour.
that I never considered, no. And so again, maybe if that's,
Not for nothing, this is why we hire these folks.
Right.
No,
that's all I was thinking is,
Interview
okay.
for jobs and say, I'm pretty good at what I do. They interview for jobs and say, I'm very good at what I do and I'm gonna make this thing better. I guess I'm looking at it from my own perspective on different things.
Would it make it a little more realistic to you? Michelle, could I ask you? You got hired as an assistant library director, right? So let's say that you certainly had a vision of what an assistant library director is supposed to do when you're doing that job.
Yeah.
Could you, very briefly, without too much elaborate, could you just tell all of us, what are you doing beside that traditional view of what you thought a library director was supposed to
The
do?
director? Well, I'm kind of still acting head of the junior department because they still come to me with a lot of different things. When the head of departments aren't there, they come to me with that.
Various departments.
Various departments,
Right.
yeah. I was head of the junior department, I was also acting head of the lending services department because the head of that department was, she retired and we, in between replacing her, hiring somebody else, they needed a head. So that was me as well. When I say acting head of the junior department, you don't know really what that means, but it involves a lot of coordinating. The junior department is one of the highest circulating departments. It deals with kids. We've got a lot of kids coming in, and that needs to be coordinated. Books need to be ordered, shelves. I'm putting books away. I'm a page because we don't have enough pages, so you're paying me, an assistant director, to put books away. Are other people? Yes, they are. But sometimes it gets backed up, and I have to go out there, and you're paying me a heck of a lot of money to pay. Instead of $8.25 an hour, we can't hire a page. You're laughing, but it's not.
No, I'm not laughing. I'm a
It's,
taxpayer, I'm not laughing.
it's very overwhelming, and I think part of what it is, it's like a marriage counselor. Should you be able to handle your own marriage, your problems in your marriage? Yes, you should. But sometimes you can't, and you need to go to somebody who's going to bring an outside perspective, and that's what, when I heard about the consultant, I was happy as heck, because I'm like, there's not a day. I started typing something this morning, and when I got in, I work 48 hours a week. And I got in this morning and I started typing something, and I typed 2 lines and it is not done because of all the things that I had to do. And that's okay. When we lost our webmaster, who took over some of the webmaster duties, the acting head of the technical services department, yes, but who else? Who was the head of the web committee? That came to me. So yes, should I be able to sit down and sit there and look at everybody else? But when you're overwhelmed just trying to keep your head above water, you can't look and sit there and go, okay, I'm gonna just let everything else go and I'm gonna take the time to do this. And so that was my idea of having a consultant come in, is just to say, okay, I'm in the middle of it, I'm overwhelmed, what can we do here that maybe I'm not seeing, because I'm just trying to keep the day-to-day operations of the library going.
Well, tell me what you think could be a fix.
What can be a fix?
Yeah.
Kind of reorganization of what people do. But again, I don't have time to sit down and go, okay, this is what, every day is from 8 o'clock in the morning to about 6:30 at night is a whirlwind of doing stuff. I mean, I should take you all over to my office now and
No,
see
no,
how
no,
it
no,
works.
but you said a reorganization of what people do.
That's what we're hoping, is looking at what people are doing and say, hey, well, you can do this more efficiently, or why are you doing that, or this person should be doing that, can be doing this as well. And with the Singer Group has worked with unions before, which was another exciting thing, because we thought they wouldn't come in and just say, well, let's have this person who's the head of reference, now they're gonna be the head of junior as well. So we were hoping that because they had the union experience as well, that they were perfectly suited to doing this job.
How many managers are in the library altogether?
How many are there now, or how many should we have in a perfect world?
How many do you have there now?
Well, there's Mark, there's me, then there's Yen, Toma, that's Yen and Sandra.
That's
and,
reference.
Yeah,
And there's
and
reference.
Community relations.
Community relations, and
Which one are you?
Leslie, and
Oh, the language
there's
center.
about yeah. Thank you, Margaret.
And how many are missing?
The head of AV, the head of the junior services department, the head of the automation, the technical services department, Mary Monahan, the head of the collection development department.
So without,
But now, without micromanaging, having been a head of a department in the city, is there ever a time when you all, 7 of you people, are in a room discussing problems with the library?
Every other week.
And none of you can come up with any ideas on how to run it better? I mean, we used to, monthly, we have a staff meeting, and we would get in that room, and, I mean, basically, I was the chief, and I would have the last call, but everybody in that room was an equal. And if anybody had an idea that was workable, we accepted it, and we went with it. I mean, do you do that? I mean, do you brainstorm?
Sure, everybody has the floor to bring up any ideas they want, but again, when you get to the point where everybody's so overwhelmed with what they're doing, we have something on the agenda every week, every other week, that says keeping it fresh, and you're supposed to bring your ideas on how to make things better, or things that we can change. And sometimes people have ideas, but more than not, they don't, because they don't have time to think of how to keep it fresh. They're trying to get things done. We're open generally 7 days a week. I mean, 6 days a week now in the summer, but the only things that we have changed with our staff keeps going down. The only things that we have changed is we are open a few less hours than we were, and we don't allow people to put holds on books that are available from home. Those are the only 2 things that we have really changed that have impacted the public. Everything else stays the same. We have the summer reading program. They have their new bestseller books. They can put holds on books that are out. We still have programs. We still have the children's programs. We still have the story times. We have everything that we had.
Are people, how do I put this one?
Well, people don't know we don't have the head of the junior
No,
department.
my question is not along that line at all. Are people afraid to voice their concerns at those meetings? I know I don't know if I'm asking the right people.
I don't think so. I mean, people they voice their concerns to me when they have concerns. I don't think they would be.
We've had real arguments during our management team meetings.
That's just you're supposed to have, yeah. Supposed to have friendly
There's
arguments.
been crying.
Well, we don't like crying.
I don't think that's an issue that people can't voice their opinions.
I'm only
I
asking.
don't get that idea.
I'm only asking.
Well,
But between all you folks, so you got all these managers, and you got this board, you got all these folks together, and no one seems to be able to come up with an idea, aside from hiring more people, which may or may not be possible. Nobody can come up with an idea on how to fix some of this stuff, and whether it's reorganization,
Well-
within the scope of their jobs that they were hired for. I just find that, I guess I'm struggling with that. That's the part that I struggle with.
See, I want to just say, that the thing has been fixed and fixed and fixed. They've constantly asked people to go across lines and do something else, take on another responsibility, back up somebody here. Am I right, Mark? We've what I used to do as a job is now looking like this. Am I right? I'm doing my job, but I'm doing 4 or 5 other things. So to respond to you, it isn't that they haven't put their heads together to try to solve it. When I go in there, they're always telling me, we got a problem, but this is what we think we're going to do about it. They tell me that all the time. Like I say to them, when we lose the woman at the end of June, who is the adult collections person who makes the decision on all of that, how are we going to deal with that? And to me, that sounds like a big problem. And they're saying, it's because she's an expert in that. She was hired to do it. And she's going to be gone. And now we got to find a way to try to fix that. And they're saying, okay, we got this way we're going to handle it for a while, and then we're going to change on that and go in a different direction once we can get moving ahead with it. So they are constantly coming up with how are we going to deal with this and that. I hear Michelle, I hear Margaret. They are constantly searching for ways to do these things. And should we be looking at it a different way? That's all this is saying. Should we be looking at it a different way?
It just seems like you all are, intelligent people. This is your field. You know your expertise and all this kind of stuff. You can't come up with, ways to fix this. It just seems.
I just gonna say, I gotta agree, and we can go on for hours on this. I gotta agree with Ben. I think this all starts with the mayor and Ginny. And I think you sit down and you start there and you say, okay, these are our problems. And then they get, because I just see us fiddling away $10,000 to be told that you don't have enough people to work there. Then either, the way I look at it, I don't run a library. I jokingly said it's probably should be ashamed of it, although I read a million books a week. Last time I was in the library, it was on fire. So I'm not a big guy at the library. But it just, I don't know. I can tell you right now, from sitting on this side with the city, there is no money. The city's broke. We're not broke. We're paying our bills. We're better than Waterbury. We're better than Bridgeport.
Yeah.
But there's people out there losing their houses, and that's when we go out there and we vote to spend money. We're thinking of that every time we take a vote, and there just isn't any money. And I don't know. You know what? I think maybe I'm ignorant again of libraries. You got to cut services. There's no question about it. Obviously, you're telling us, you're the experts, you can't do what you're doing, but what you got, well then guess what? There's no money, because you're not going to get any more people, I'll tell you that right now. So now we're, okay folks, what's the least harmful that we cut? That's the way I look at it.
And if I may, you're saying you start with myself and the mayor, and I don't want to speak for the mayor, but, given that the library is losing 2 more people, they are losing another head, if the library is able to, you might have a better shot at it if you're able to put together a plan that's well thought out and not just replacing what you've lost, but looking where you can combine, looking where you can cut services, and maybe looking where you can maybe reorganize a new position so that you cover some of these areas and have a plan for it rather than just, let's replace what we've lost, because obviously what you have now is not working. So you're going to have to look at a new way to try and pitch it and get yourself, maybe you've lost 5, but get yourself 1 that's going to be able to
Now
cover.
you're making our argument. That's what we came in the room to say.
But that
Exactly
hasn't happened. And if the committee here is saying that, you start with Ginny and the mayor, that's what you're going to have to start by doing, and kind of looking at these, as a department head is supposed to look.
But Jenny, what I hear you saying is, you got to look at doing business a different way. And that's why we wanted to get a consultant in to
But I think
help
you
us
can
with
start
that.
doing that from within.
Can we write a new job description, or is that something that?
Of course you
Sure.
can. Are you folks under the gun regarding the price of this? Or is this something that could be delayed?
Well, I've been in touch a few times with Paula Singer,
Yeah.
and she knows that, her ability to come up and start the process has been delayed because of this committee, and she knows that we're meeting tonight. I don't think she would change her price, if that's what you need. There was nothing in any of our correspondence or in the proposal that says this, up to this amount is good until any date. And I don't mean to state the obvious, but you do know that the Ferrioli Fund is not a city fund. It's separate money, okay.
But once you run out of the Ferrioli money, they're gonna be coming to the city to get money, so it's,
I like the idea of first going to the mayor and perhaps an outline for a new, hopefully an outline for a new individual that could be hired, could maybe fill some of these voids and fix some of this before we spend any money on this. We should find out if it's possible at all to replace some of these people that you've lost. We gutted here with all these folks.
If I may, I don't think Ginny was saying just to write a job description to replace, to hire a new person, but to look at how to revamp
That's what I
the
meant. That's what I'm
entire
saying.
structure,
So,
right?
So a job description for perhaps someone who can fill some of these voids.
But current things need to be redistributed, as other departments have done.
They have to be a whole reorganization,
Or, possibly cutting services and
Let's,
delegating tasks elsewhere and, I'm not saying, I'm putting a disclaimer on what I'm saying.
No.
Because I can't approve that, but it's a suggestion in
Right.
terms of if that's what you're gonna do, you're gonna have to put some thought into it.
Right.
And as I said, and I don't mean to repeat myself too often anyway, we are currently gathering, input from the whole city, not just from people who use the library. So, and this is a stupid example, but if we had a lap pool, and nobody thought that was the most important service at the library for them, then we would close the lap pool. We're going to take the input very seriously, and that should be able to help us determine, as other people have suggested, that if we can't keep the status quo, if we have to reduce services to some extent or hours or whatever, we're hoping that the input from the public will help us make those kinds of decisions.
I think this is a very good idea, but I think we need to know if you can hire more people before we hire these folks. In my opinion, before we hire these folks, we got to find out with the people that you're losing, if it's possible to replace some of those folks, and this input that you're getting from the citizenry. I think we need that information before we spend $9,800 on this right here. And then after we get all that information, let's just say the mayor finds money someplace where he can hire 1 or 2 or 10 people to help you guys out. We should find out from the big bosses here what's going on. Get your input that you get from the folks. Find out if we have to cut some services or cut hours or whatever, and then if we can't fix this thing, then perhaps that's the way to go. Because I don't think we've hit the dead end yet. We don't know. You're doing great. Because I don't think we're at the dead end yet. We don't know what the mayor can do, what all the city bosses can do, and what the input from the folks within the survey that you're taking, and whether or not things have to be cut or not. And once we get all that information, if it's still not a fix, then perhaps Singer Group. That's my opinion.
Want to make a motion?
So,
I would say the motion not to take any action.
that's a motion to refuse, to deny the certification of funds.
All right. All right, I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Vote for dismissal agenda.
Yes. So done.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. We appreciate it. We hope this can get worked out somehow.
Yeah.